Hey, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing today? So, long story short, I've been meaning to try to see The Mist for actually quite a long time now, because for years, I've literally had this movie almost spoiled for me, like, so many, like, X amount of times that I'm just like, fuck, I actually have to watch the movie now, because I don't want anybody to accidentally fuck it up for me. So I watched it, and fuck me if this movie's not interesting. And I say interesting because it's honestly not the most well-executed film I've ever seen, but the story is fucking heroic. In other words, fellas, try and picture a woman who's kind of like okay looking, kind of has an okay personality, you guys have a little bit in common, but she gives you the greatest sloppy blowjobs you've ever had in your life. Ladies, picture the same thing, except the guy knows how to make little circles with his tongue almost as fast as your vibrator. But anyway, the main point about this is that the story in and of itself, like the bare bones plot of the movie, is the one thing that will keep you interested, and the third act is just fucking amazing. Seriously, for the entire last 20-25 minutes of the movie, your eyes are just straight up glued to the screen because you really want to know what happens next. And the story is basically about a small town and like a big storm happens, so a lot of the people that live in the town go to the supermarket so they can get supplies. But while they're at the supermarket, this mist kind of covers the store, and there's some crazy shit that happens, so nobody can leave. And honestly, I'd rather just kind of leave it there. I'm gonna try and stay away from as many story elements as humanly possible because I didn't know a whole lot going into it, and I feel like my experience was better because of that. I will tell you that the bare bones of the story is literally about man's inhumanity to man and what happens when you let fear kind of like overtake you and how you have like kind of a gang mentality. The crazy shit that happens in the mist is like the main thing, but there's also this like very like human story behind it and about like the psyche of what happens when people are kind of put into the situation where they're kind of like cut off from the rest of the world. But aside from the story, some of the negatives are a lot of the visual effects are like very like dated. Like whether it's practical or CGI, like you can tell that this is not anything that came out in the last 5 years. There was a couple times where it was really good, but most of the time it was just really meh. And also there's one element about the plot that's a little bit over the top, but you kind of like, I mean, this movie's a work of fiction, so you just kind of let it go for the most part. And there's one itty bitty thing that happens about halfway into the movie that is never actually fully explained. If you want to talk about it, feel free to drop a comment, just put a spoiler warning in there, just, you know, for the people that haven't seen it. And some of the music was really good, but other times not so much. And also, a lot of the acting is really kind of eh. It's just a lot of the side characters, like, really kind of, like, overplayed it sometimes, and I was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. The main actor in the movie, Thomas Jane, like, he did pretty good for the most part, but even he had a couple moments where it was just kind of like, it's a little too much. And actually, fun fact, I got to meet Thomas Jane one time because he was shooting an episode of Hung, that HBO show. They were filming right by the city that I used to live in. I saw what was up, and then I went up to him, said hi, and he chatted up with me for a minute, and he was a super nice guy. But anyway, besides all that, if you're like a super nerd, there's some like cool little Easter eggs in the movie because, first of all, the movie was directed by Frank Darabont, and he's one of the people responsible for The Walking Dead, so there's a lot of like random Walking Dead actors like peppered into the movie. And there's some vague horror references like in the very beginning of the movie. And also the guy who does the voice of Darth Maul and a lot of other Star Wars characters, Sam Witwer, is in the movie. Those things don't really add to the movie necessarily, but they were cool little like nerdy tidbits that I appreciated. But anyway, guys, like I say, this movie is not the most perfectly executed movie in the world, but everything about the story elements and just like the human condition behind it are just retardedly riveting. And this is kind of one of those movies that you have to experience at least once just so you can see like the entire third act because it'll blow your fucking mind. So based on all that, I think total I'm gonna give it a 7.4 out of 10. This is one of those movies where if you hear anything about the movie, it feels like a major spoiler, so I personally would recommend that you watch this movie ASAP. You may not buy the Blu-ray after you watch it the first time, but if you find anybody else that's seen the movie, you immediately have something to talk about. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this movie before? Did you read the short story? Hop in the comments, let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe, do all that other bullshit, and I will catch you guys later.